Welcome everyone to our workshop. We have Aaron Wrixon here who will be running through his his workflow and process, leveraging AI and creating content for his clients. There's one lucky agency owner. I'm not even sure who that agency owner is, Aaron, that you'll be using as a demo here. I'm hopeful that you do know. I know there were a few people that were like, we want Aaron to do it, but we just don't want him to do it live in front of the whole group and on the recording that's
Yeah,
going on YouTube. So I am grateful for some of the brave members who did. Thank you for jumping on, Aaron. I'm going to give you a quick intro, then I'd love for you to add anything you'd like to it before you get started.
okay.
Guys, Aaron Wrixon is a dear friend. I have known him for almost a decade now. I met him around the time that he decided to move from a freelance copy job to be a a full-time freelancer, full-time copywriter
Yeah.
who decided to move into full-time freelance. And for over a decade, Aaron has been helping agencies with their copy messaging. He's helped me with my agency website. If you've read any of the copy on my web audit, our sales letters, sales pages, email copy, onboarding, he has been a big part of that. I can say and attest that he is a genius at copywriting. His copy has helped us generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm grateful to have him on.
I'm a very proud Canadian. We agreed I wouldn't get political, but I will say
That's right.
it is snowing here. I first started in 1997. So we are coming close to 3 decades stringing this together. It's always been something that I've been good at. Never something that I knew I could do as a job until I got paid in 97 and went, oh, I see. And so since then, I started working at smaller companies and bigger organizations and started a side hustle business in 2011. So I would work all day writing and then come home and write and work on the commuter train and write. And then in 2016, I quit my job at the prompting of some of you may know Brent Weaver and his uGurus group. Cliff said some people are here from uGurus. There was a uGurus conference where the whole room told me I should quit. So I did because I'm very easily led. And I looked like a young, fresh-faced 13-year-old a decade ago, and now I'm old and gray because it's been quite a decade. I don't know if I would trade it though. It's been good. Anyway, today I want to talk about how AI can help you build authority online, like making your client seem that you're an expert by using AI to get into what your clients are likely thinking and feeling. I say likely because the best way to find out what they're thinking and feeling is to ask them. But not everybody has hours to interview clients and then synthesize what they're saying and then make a guess at how they feel because they didn't really tell you. So what I want to do is show you how to use AI to shortcut the customer interview process and instead make some well-informed AI-powered assumptions about what problems they're having, what they're trying to solve, what benefits they're trying to gain, and then using that knowledge to make your content better. Somebody asked, I don't know if they were joking or not, they asked, what is a copywriter? For me, there's a difference between content and copy. There's a difference between the stuff you put on a web page and a blog post and the stuff like you've seen from Cliff, where he's trying to sell you an annual membership or telling you about a new feature and asking you to sign on. Essentially, I will use the words interchangeably in this conversation, but what I mean is essentially content educates and informs and entertains. As soon as you ask for action, that's copy. I'm going to show you how this stuff works on both pieces because you're getting into the head of your reader and you're trying to figure out what makes them tick. And that's going to make everything from a blog post to a sales page better. So when you use what I show you, it's going to help you write words that resonate with your clients a lot better. And that is the process by which they will come to think of you as an expert, as an authority that they want to work with. Because of a quirk in human behavior where we agree with people more when we say things that, or when they say things that we agree with. Or when they say things that are familiar to us. I got distracted by the poll thing that popped up on the screen. My ADD took over and I was reading that instead of trying to tell you what I want to tell you. I don't care whether you watch MSNBC or Fox News or something in the middle. because as I said, I'm a Canadian and I'm smarter than all y'all. But if you want to pretend for a second that you watch the other one, it's very unlikely that you're going to be nodding along with the person on the television thinking, you know what, this person is really smart. Because you tend to be most impressed when you agree with the expert, when they're saying things that are new to you, but occasionally they say stuff that you go, oh, yeah, I feel exactly that way. I might be able to convince you today to use AI to put some more work into your content, but the more likely reason that you want to pay attention to me is I've done some thinking ahead of time about your agency and how you can use AI in that agency to make it better. So when you hear me say X, Y, or Z, you might think, oh, this person has my best interest at heart. He seems to know a lot about this. This could help me. And that's going to make you perk up and pay attention. That's the process that I want to teach you. By getting into the head of your best client, that then we're going to be able to write content and copy that resonates better and that makes you seem like you're more of an expert. Again, it would be best if you could sit down with 12 of them and ask them all this stuff. But this process that I'm going to show you is going to get about 80 to 90% of the way there. And it's a lot faster, as you will see. So with that said, I had prepared to work with, I'm not sure if Karen is on the call. Sorry, Karen. I did promise I would take somebody on the call. Karen missed it by that much. Is there anyone brave enough to jump in with me and tell me a couple of things? The easy part is the name of your agency. The second part is what kind of customer you work with, like what niche. I'm looking for something that's actually niched instead of we work with small businesses, although that works too. And I'd love to know what services you do. Is there anybody that wants to pile in? Cliff, you were about to ask me.
I think Russell dropped a note in our Facebook group and he is on.
Oh, Russell. I'm so sorry.
And it's, I think, 3 a.m. his time, so I'm going to give him mad credit to be on
Okay,
here.
that Russell works. Right now, Russell,
Hello.
do
How's
you
it
want
going?
to jump on, Russell, or do you want to? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, happy to do. Yep. How you doing today?
Great.
It is a bit early over here. Not quite 3 a.m., but 5:11 a.m. So yeah, it's good.
Sounds like an
It's
Aussie.
dark out there. Yeah.
Indeed.
New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah, don't
Very
have a
similar
close.
accent. It's hard for me to tell the difference.
It's like calling me
Yeah.
American. You can't do that.
Cool.
All right. I'll just look at what we wrote. So the company I've got is Digital Stream, and we are a digital agency coming up 26 years.
Mhm.
And so New Zealand's a pretty small country, so we've been pretty much a generous agency, but we're moving towards professional service-based industries, businesses rather. I know that's quite wide still, but that's what we're going with. And so what I put in there is that what we want to start out with is digital strategy and marketing for professional service-based businesses. Services that we include is digital strategy, web design and development, and then digital marketing with a focus on local SEO, Google ads, and Facebook and Instagram ads with conversion optimization and reporting to round it out. So our current website is digitalstream.co.nz. I can put that in. Do you want to put that into the chat if that's easier?
Are you saying STREAM, digital?
Stream, that's the one, yeah.
All right.
I'll put that on the chat too.
Sure, please do. No slight, just, for those who find your New Zealand accent strong, I will repeat what you said. You run Digital Stream. Plus, it'll help me confirm that I've got it right. You run Digital Stream, a digital agency that helps professional service businesses with digital strategy, web design and development, and digital marketing, SEO, ads, conversion, optimization, and more. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I'll also put it in the chat as well.
Oh, thank you. And so just one point of clarification, because one thing you'll find with AI is that it's happy to assume that it knows what you mean. What do you call a professional service business? You want to give me some examples?
Yeah, so for us as accountants, lawyers, property managers, anyone that's a B2B service-based business, not B2C as such. Well, that's not entirely true. Yeah, actually, sorry, this is not entirely true. Thinking about that. So it's a bit early in the morning. We do a lot of work with tradies. You call them contractors over in your part of the world. So, builders, electricians, plumbers, etc. Anyone that's sort of providing a service, really.
Okay. Perfect.
I guess what we've made a decision on is getting away from types of charities and e-commerce companies, we're moving away from that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to.
I know that's still extremely wide, but New Zealand's a
Oh,
very
it's
small
okay.
market.
You'll find that the AI is fairly forgiving. I'm just updating my prompt for you to incorporate your stuff. And I'm going to put New Zealand in there because we're going to see if the ChatGPT will be smart enough to use your preferred spelling. It's a minor thing, but over here in North America, we use the letter Z or Z for words like optimization, where in New Zealand and Australia and England, they use an S. So let's just, as a test, see whether Chat is smart enough to pick up on that if I say New Zealand.
And you're welcome to share your screen, Aaron, if you want that to already work for, right?
I'm about to do exactly that. Thank y'all. So here we go. I was beavering away in Microsoft Word, but what we're going to do is we're going to share my web browser so you can see ChatGPT. Everybody should be with me now, correct? What can I help with, Aaron? Anybody, when it asks me that question, I always think of 2001, the movie. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. One of
Totally getting Hal
these
vibes right
tell
now.
me,
Yeah.
open the pod bay door, Sal.
Yeah, we can see.
All right, perfect. So, welcome to ChatGPT. I'm using 4.0 paid. What I want to talk about first before we show some prompts is my basic methodology is known popularly as StoryBrand. I'm not a StoryBrand consultant, but in back of StoryBrand is a focus on 4 things that matter a lot to me: pains and gains and benefits and problems, right? So we're going to talk about that stuff in the context of what your customers want. When we'll start with pains, you might not use the word pain, but you might say that you're irritated or you're dissatisfied or something could be better or whatever. But, like if I told you that I want to help you get more clients and you started to pay attention to that, then I would know that you want more clients and you haven't quite gotten the number of clients that you want. I would call that a pain, and your clients have tons of them. They're in pain, they have functional problems that they're trying to solve, and they have emotional issues that they're trying to either fix or to run away from. So for me, the foundation of authority is truly understanding your audience's pains and then speaking to them. To clarify what I talked about just there's 2 kinds of pains I want to speak to. Functional pains, the tangible business problems that your clients have when they're at work. Things like a lack of in-house expertise around digital marketing, or uncertainty about how to scale, or technical challenges about ad campaigns, and so on. What really drives their decisions are the emotional pains, the kind of stuff that keeps them up at night. The fear of falling behind, the stress about managing a complex project, the pressure of trying to deliver to stakeholders or superiors, or even anxiety about working with you because you're new and they have no idea how the project is going to go. And when you can find a way to make your content speak to both of these kinds of pains, not simply we can help you grow your business, but we can help you grow your business so that you can XYZ, stop worrying or scale confidently or whatever. When you do both of those things, your client feels understood, and that's very powerful. That is the piece of authority that sometimes people miss. It's not just about showing that you understand the pains, it's about expressing them in their language and empathizing with them. And so that's what we're going to do. I have done this, as I said, I did this prompt off screen. You'll get a copy of these prompts, so you don't have to worry about taking notes or capturing screens or anything. And the prompt looks like this. You are an expert StoryBrand consultant. I run Digital Stream, a New Zealand digital agency that helps professional service businesses with digital strategy, web development, et cetera, et cetera. Those are capitalized because I just pasted them in from Russell's comment in the chat. Help me identify the external functional problems that my clients face, the tangible business challenges that make them start looking for an agency like mine. Structure your response this way. Give me a list of the problems for each one. Include examples of how it manifests in their business, how it shows up for them. Include specific situations that indicate they're experiencing this problem that I can keep an eye out for. Add common phrases they might use when describing each one. For now, I want to focus only on external functional problems, not emotional or internal ones. Frame them as specific business challenges. So we're going to dive even deeper than this. You can imagine that even at this level, we're doing a lot more thinking than we might normally about our clients. And as you can see, chat just whips right through it, right? Now, these numbers may look different to you, but they look pretty good to me. You could clearly edit them to suit. But I mean, look, what does not enough qualified leads mean, right? You might say that on your website, but really you could get a lot more specific and a lot more dialed into what problem they might be having. Sometimes people like to put a "does this sound familiar" section on their website. And so we've already got the kinds of things that we might be able to say to people. Hey, listen, if you're not getting enough leads, and if the people that contact you aren't the kinds of clients that you want, or if you feel like you're just guessing at how to find leads, we can help. Not enough leads, low visibility in search results, the website doesn't convert properly, people are visiting but nothing's happening. These are real, they sound really real, right? I'm sure you've had customers tell you these kinds of things.
This looks good.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And
yeah, Cliff.
oh, Aaron, I was going to say, like, when I see this, because I usually don't see the back end of the kitchen of what you're doing, but then I look at these phrases, and then when you're working on our ad copy, I see that some of these phrases are what we use at the start of our ad copy, right? Because the second we read that line on social media, it's, wait, no, that pertains to me, and then you continue to read the ad. So I'm assuming that these phrases could be used both for website copy then, but effectively for social media posts and ads as well, right?
100%. Yep. It's going to get even cooler though. So we've got this section with a bunch of stuff that are going to help Russell shape the way that he talks to people. But I mentioned emotional pains as well, right? So I've got a second prompt about their emotional problems. And now we're going to get sort of into their head. Again, this is all made up. Don't get it wrong. This is chat. What do they call it? This is chat hallucinating about the workings of the mind of your customer. But since it's based on so much of the internet, it gets pretty close. And you'll find that even speaking to these made up emotional problems will make your client feel a lot more heard than you might otherwise have done. Now we get into
What is chat hallucinating?
Oh, chat tends to, because of the way chat works. If you don't know, I suppose I could have explained that at the beginning. Chat starts out, let's say it wants to start out a sentence with "the." Then it uses what it knows about the way that humans talk and predicts the next most likely word.
Okay.
So it might say, very quickly, it might say, well, in 71% of the case, quick comes after the word "the." And then it says, okay, well, what comes next? So, well, I've seen brown happen a lot. And so in that way, it writes out, "the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog." It's not thinking, it's just simply putting stuff together based on what it learned when it was trained on, quote unquote, how to speak English. So it's a machine. And it's a robot. It looks like it's thinking, but it's not. So how could it ever possibly know what's going on in the head of the people that Russell's trying to sell to? Well, it can guess based on the way lots of people that are like the people Russell's trying to sell to talk on the web, talk in the bunch of text that was used to train it. And so when you ask it questions, it comes very close to simulating what a person might actually say.
Okay.
I think when you look at these lists, frustrated about wasting time and money, we've tried this before and it didn't work. Every client we've ever had has said that about marketing. We spent thousands and got nothing back. We don't want to waste time or money again. So yeah, it's essentially making these up out of whole cloth, except every one of us on this call knows how much these resonate. because we've all
Mm.
heard them, right? So we can
Yeah,
use
thank you.
this as a very good simulation of talking to a real person. We don't know where to start because it's too complex. It all feels like a black box. Everyone else seems to be ahead of us. Our competitors are everywhere. We don't want to be left behind. These are all really cool
This
simulations
is great.
of what people might be thinking, right? And when you keep them in mind, all of a sudden you'll sound like this kind of emotional guru that empathizes with them and kind of takes them under your wing to say, don't worry, we've got this, right? That's where the emotional piece comes from.
Awesome.
Any questions at this sort of halfway point before I start to talk about gains?
Can I ask one really fast question?
Yeah.
It's very technical, but it's your, as an expert, like, which you're like the OG of copywriting, your professional opinion about the value and wisdom of using a chat GPT approach instead of Claude with very similar prompting.
I just use chat because not too many people mention Claude to me. Claude is my absolute number one tool. It's my ride or die. I use it all day, every day.
Claude?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Claude,
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Claude has a free version. Chat has a free version that'll do almost everything that we're watching here. They're both similarly priced. CLAUDE, in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about. With the kind of reasoning that we're doing, it's a coin toss whether you want to use chat or Claude. If you were to actually go and write, Cliff will speak to this too. Claude is a much better writer than ChatGPT is.
Yeah.
I would never write in ChatGPT. In fact, I use ChatGPT only in 2 instances now. Number one, when I'm teaching like this and I want to show people something that they're familiar with and that they have easier access to. And number two, when Claude is down. that's when I use ChatGPT.
Thank you. I really appreciate you fielding that question, man. This
You're
is
welcome.
incredible content. Really appreciate your time.
No problem. So we talked about pains, but I don't want to be completely negative. There's another piece of it too, and that's gains. Similarly, there's functional gains and emotional gains. These are their hopes and dreams, the positive outcomes they want, the aspirations that they have, the benefits that they're actually trying to get by working with you. So when you talk to both levels of gains, they feel inspired, right? When you talk about their problems, their pains, they feel understood. And when you're talking about gains, they feel inspired and they see you as someone more than just somebody that understands their problems. All of a sudden, you're a guide that understands them and can get them where they want to go. So that's where we go next. Now, please give me their functional gains. I will speed this piece up. I'll share a link to this chat. I'll make this chat public so everyone can read it afterward.
Thank you.
And we're going to go through the functional gains. They want more qualified leads. They want improved visibility. And again, the language is great. We want to be the first business that people see in our area. We need to rank better for this. We want people to find us without having to search by name. They want a website to converts, but they would probably never use that word convert, right? Depending on the sophistication of your client, they might just say, we want our website to work harder for us. It needs to do more than just look good. We want it to get real business from it. They want ROI. They want reporting and accountability. We want to see exactly where the leads are coming from. We want better visibility into performance and make informed decisions, not guesses. And they want a professional, modern online presence. We want to look like the trusted professionals that we are. See, this is the cool part, Russell. By telling it that we are working with professional service businesses, it's starting to pull that language in already. Right?
It's a good one too.
You do actually get, yeah, I love that a lot. I mean, that gets to the heart of a lot of what accountants and lawyers and architects want. They want to
spot on.
They want to look like the trusted professionals that they are, and they get let down because their website is amateur. Similarly, emotional gains. That in there? That document, that little thing that I keep Xing out is a quirk of chat. When you paste from Word, for some reason, it adds that little extra file to the thing. They want confidence. I mean, you could imagine, think about just for one simple, poorly thrown together sentence, we can say, we'll take you, you may have tried this before and got frustrated because it didn't work, but we'll give you the plan to help and make you feel like you are, make you feel like you finally got that plan and you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can very easily mix and match these kinds of things to turn it into almost instant sales sentences. They want to feel some pride. They want to feel relief from uncertainty. We're not just hoping for the best anymore. It's great knowing somebody has this covered. We don't have to micromanage anything. We finally have a partner we can trust. Wouldn't you love it if they were saying that about you?
Mm.
We're finally standing out in the right way, and it all makes sense now. Pretty cool. So we know pains and gains, emotional pains, emotional gains, functional pains, functional gains. But this is where the magic happens. Okay. Now, I will read this one out so that you can see it specifically. I would like to write a series of clear, readable marketing messages that target these functional problems and gains, while implicitly addressing the emotional problems and gains my clients are facing. Sorry, that shouldn't say gains, while implicitly addressing the emotional problems that my clients are facing. The emotional side should stay hidden. I want to speak through their emotional pains and gains to inform my marketing messages, but I don't want to explicitly speak to them, because sometimes that can come off as cheesy or manipulative. So now we've got some marketing messages for Digital Stream. I mean, this stuff is gold. Stop chasing the wrong clients. We help professional service firms attract the right kind of leads. People are actively searching for your services and ready to take the next step. If people can't find you online, they'll choose someone else. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they're afraid of, right? We make sure the business shows up where it matters, right when prospects are looking for your services. We design websites that guide visitors to take action so you get more inquiries, not just more clicks. If you're running ads without results, we build and manage campaigns that actually convert so you know where every dollar is going and what it's bringing back. Like, how cool is that?
This is incredible, man.
I know. Now, again, not to turn this into an ad for professional copywriting. This is going to get you a lot of the way to where I would do it. The best example that I give for why you want to use copywriting as a tool and not as, the be all and end all is that now everyone on this call has access to these same messages, right? That's what chat is doing. If you put these prompts in, it's going to give you essentially the same versions of this over and over again. So eventually we're going to get to a point where every agency is saying this kind of stuff. This looks incredible to us right now because A, we've never talked this way before on our websites, and B, none of our competitors in New Zealand are talking this way. They will be soon because they're, just a quick couple of get smarts away from being able to run this stuff. But in the meantime, take the money and run, I say.
I hear you.
Yeah. So we've got that. Again, I will speed through this piece so that we can take a little more questions, but we can even ask it to say, write me a StoryBrand style homepage. This is a particularly prescribed way of creating a homepage that Donald Miller puts out in his book, Building a Story Brand. But I mean, it's going to spit out the hero section, problems. I mean, this stuff is awesome. Most professional service firms face one or more of these problems. You're not showing up, your website looks fine, but it doesn't convert. You're spending money on ads without seeing ROI. You're not getting the kind of leads your team wants to talk to. If any of this sounds familiar, we can help. We help turn your website into a growth engine. We are a New Zealand-based digital agency that works with professional services to do all this. We don't do fluff. We focus on strategy, performance, and measurable outcomes. Here's what to do next. We'll do a strategy call. We'll plan and build. We'll measure and improve. And you'll get this. And then it's prompting you to put some testimonials in there. I mean, for the amount of time we put into it, approximately 20 minutes, you might feel that this kind of messaging is actually an improvement on the kind of messaging that you're using right now.
For sure. Absolutely. It's just great what it does.
The last party trick I will show you, and again, all this stuff will be made available to you in case you're worrying I'm going too fast. I have prepared ahead of time some stats. Cliff asked me to say, okay, that's cool, but how could you use this for social media, for example, or for a blog post? We're going to look at social media. I have attached a list of statistics about web design. All right. You'll have to trust me on these ones. This is a list of stats that I pulled from another AI tool called Perplexity. I asked Perplexity to find me some cool statistics on
That's a great prompt.
web. Thank you. You can imagine that when the computers come to start to take away your business, you get pretty good at learning how to use the computers really fast. So I've had 2 years of pounding around with ChatGPT and Jarvis, now Jasper and Claude and all these tools, right? So I've started to try to think. I mean, the good news is they're sophisticated enough now that the days of, used to be in the early days of AI, way back in 2022, 23 or whatever it was, the early days, 2 centuries ago, people would sell you lists of prompts. They are helpful, but the AI tools are sophisticated enough now that you can, use real language and you don't have to worry about formatting your prompt exactly. It can help, but I wouldn't stress too much about doing anything except asking it for what you want. Anyway, I digress. This is a list of, I wonder if I click this, will it show up? No, it would work that way in Cloud, but not here. All you need to know is it's about 8 stats that I had Perplexity research for me with some else and stuff. So anyway, I've attached this list of stats. Please create 10 engaging posts. Don't use emojis, because when you say social media posts, it instantly fills it full of emojis. Use a variety of attention-grabbing openings, such as "Did you know?" and "Shocking stat," and "Here's a surprising fact." Each post should present one statistic this way. Call it blah, blah, blah. Call to action, blah, blah. Make the post attention-grabbing and designed to generate clicks. Boom.
I love that. So while that generates, Aaron, let me give them context to why I asked this, right? So for those of you,
you're right. Yes, thank you, Cliff. Please.
yeah, yeah. So Aaron's working this up, and last week I told him, "Hey, look, we've launched these new AI lead magnets, and on our AMA call last week, we were talking about prompt frameworks. And Blake, you had a question of, hey, Cliff, how would you put this into AI to generate content?" And so I told Aaron, "Look, you're already working through this content framework. Could you just create a prompt at the end to show our users how they could do this?" And so the use case here would be, once you have enough information to build out an ICP, an ideal client profile, a persona, you're able to then use prompts like this to generate some compelling social media content where you can educate, lead with value, and then you can get them to say, you don't know where you're ranking on Google, click here, and it can go to one of those lead magnets. Or you have an old site that's not driving leads, you can send it to the website lead magnet, for example. And so this is how easy well, Aaron makes it easy. It is to kind of put this together, and now you literally could have a month worth of content for a specific topic. Now, if you take this and modify it so you have SEO content, GBP, your local SEO, now you'll have 30, 40 pieces, and you can rotate through them over the next quarter. And following this, now you literally could generate that 30 minutes after this call. So there should be no reason for you not to do that.
As a bonus for you guys, I will include the web design stats I found, the GBP stats, and some conversion stats. So you don't even have to go look for the statistics. I will give them to you. But
Thank you.
It's interesting. Once you have this base, the world is your oyster with chat. I'm going to freestyle for a second. Let's forget about social media and my other messaging for a second and get back to the pains and gains. Please create a buyer persona I can use in my marketing. Like, wow.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
It's all summarized for you. You can even, if you really, so I was going to say you could even do an empathy map if you want to. If you want to get real technical in the kinds of tools that I used, you can do an empathy map. But it's starting to get into some of this stuff, what they're saying out loud, triggers that make them reach out. Oh gosh, look at that. It's surprising me now.
It's gold.
Yeah.
What's an empathy map?
Can you build me an empathy map? Empathy map is, what are they saying? What are they seeing? What are they hearing? for Rachel.
While Aaron generates that, for those of you who do paid discovery, this is one of the deliverables that we drop off, right? So we're building this out for their website already, but what we tell them is, are you doing LinkedIn posts? Are you going to trade shows? Are you doing print ads? Guess what? If you're doing any of those things, chances are you don't have a framework or contextual understanding of your ICP, and this will give you that.
Yeah.
Email copy, everything, like literally anything that is related to marketing and sales should be leveraging that base document.
And remember, again, Rachel's not real, but
It's absolute gold.
We've prepared so much stuff about Rachel that something that we were talking about is bound to identify with your people, or your people rather are bound to identify with something in it. So if we use multiple of these messages, I can guarantee that anyone that visits your website is going to see themselves in some piece of it and go, oh, well, yeah, okay, and give themselves a reason to pay more attention. Here's what she's thinking and feeling. Here's what she's hearing from peers and from freelancers. Freelancers saying, you need more of this, more of that. Her sales team is complaining that the leads aren't going anywhere. She's hearing that she needs to show up locally or she'll be left behind. She's seeing competitors. She's seeing marketing reports. She's seeing poor rankings. She's saying this kind of stuff. Her real challenges. She really wants to achieve this. I mean, once you know the tricks, you can build a really convincing imaginary person to market to.
Can I ask one really fast 10-second question about that?
Yeah.
Do you recommend, which I think the answer is going to be yes, do you recommend doing this process, tweaking it back and forth, until you're like, this is 100% spot on, exporting these assets, and then using that to build, for example, if you're going to keep in context, a custom GPT going forward, and every single thing you ever do again says, here's my blueprint, here's the ICP, here's the empathy map. Now take this and write around this product line, blah.
Yes.
So you do the work once, and now you're creating an asset. You never have to do it again, and it's always going to be right. Is that how you recommend working smarter with these tools?
Yeah, let's unpack that for a second for people that might be not as familiar with the tools as we are. A program like Claude or ChatGPT will let you build a sandbox in which you can feed it with knowledge. In Claude, it's called a project. In Chat, it's called a custom GPT. And you can do exactly what, sorry, I can only see a few faces on the screen, so I didn't know who it was that said that.
It is Matt Stanley.
Oh, Matt. Okay. So you can do exactly what Matt said. You can load this stuff into your sandbox to say, my customer is like Rachel, and here's an empathy map, and here's a persona, and here are the pains and gains she wants. And so it will know these things, and you can then proceed to work from that whole point of view. That's what I do to get, like, you can imagine that as a writer, AI falls short for me a lot, because I want a certain thing. However, by feeding my AI tools with this kind of constant instruction, I can get AI to give me about 70% of what I want right now. So I can get it to draft something and then work on that to try, to improve it to where I want to the point where I can create a dozen pieces of my own website in a week, where maybe before I would futz around and do two, so it's 6xing my speed on this side by feeding it with these kinds of instructions, these kinds of things about my avatar, these kinds of pieces that I want to stay persistent. You would train your AI the same way that you would train someone on your team. You don't hire someone to sit at a desk in your office and then every Monday retell them all the stuff that they need to know. You have an expectation that they're going to remember those things. And so that process that Matt outlined is exactly what's happening there. You can take this stuff and feed it in there. And then all of a sudden, everything that you create with AI for Digital Stream becomes more useful because it's trying to keep all that stuff in mind as it writes. Now, it's an AI. It's a dumb machine. It occasionally spins out of control. But you can also speak to it in a way like it was actually human and ask it things like, did you take this into account? Did you make sure to reflect her emotional needs in that piece of content? is that this blog post seems generic to me. Can you make sure that it's more precisely targeted for Rachel, et cetera, et cetera? Pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
So I said I was going to talk for 20 minutes, but instead I talked for much longer than that. But we still have 15.
That's really good.
We still have 15
Thank you, Aaron.
minutes for questions. Thank you for paying attention. You can ask me anything at this point.
Well, I hope that was helpful to everyone. I mean, for me, just seeing how you approach it, the prompts that you use is it's amazing to see. I mean, yeah, I've only just started using ChatGPT and it's instant love for it.
It's pretty cool. So now extend it, Russell. Extend, now that we know who Rachel is, and now that we can feed it into a custom GPT to make it persistent, you can do the same thing with brand voice. You can do the same thing with a list of your services, and you can tell it these things and say, look, these are the services that I do, and this is the way that I like to talk about them. You could say, this is my brand voice, and these are the kinds of words that I want to say, and these are the kinds of words that I never want to say. And you can actually shape it over time to get better and better for you. And if you're disciplined, Russell, if you, for example, only use ChatGPT for your own stuff, you can even turn on a feature where it will remember things for you. And so each chat gets improved based on the stuff that you've done. It gets very muddy when you're using it for multiple clients. I've got it turned off everywhere I go because I work with, I don't know, 5 different clients a week or whatever. So
What's that feature?
It's called memory. It's been so long that I've used it that I don't quite remember how to turn it on. It's somewhere in the settings you can turn on or turn off the ability for chat to remember you, to remember what you've asked it before and bring that to bear on previous or on
Okay.
chats. Now, be careful with it. I will tell you one example drawn from the headlines this week. A friend of mine, good guy, runs a company that makes very expensive cables that you can run from your Blu-ray player to a massive projector to make like a movie theater in your house. Well, then he asked ChatGPT what the best cable is, and Chat dutifully spit out that it was his cable. And so he's all proud. He went to social media with it and did this big thing. Look, even Chat knows that this is the greatest cable. Except for that's not true at all. If you asked Chat, Russell, it would have no idea what cable he was talking about. Unfortunately, he didn't realize that he had the memory on. And since he had talked about his cable so much, Chat just instantly went to that and said, your cable's the greatest cable. It's like looking in the mirror in Cinderella. You're the fairest. So you can get fooled by this thing very easily. But if you
Yeah.
that it's a dumb tool, and it's a dumb tool that you're using to your own particular ends, then it can be very helpful.
Yeah.
So,
Now-
Aaron, we have a couple of questions in the chat as well. Sorry, not to interrupt. Feel free to continue if you had to say.
No, go ahead. It's question time.
Yeah. So Kelly says, do you have a specific process to help you get from 70% to a more polished version of the messaging? I assume that's your expertise, and you have a process. What does that process look like?
Yeah, my process is start in 1997 and then write for 28 years. No, the thing is this, right? If I could bottle that up and sell it, I'd make a lot of money. But I don't know how to do it. It's almost like asking somebody how they play guitar or how they play basketball. I don't know. You just do. Like for me, it's just reps. It's that I've written close to 10 million words over 30 years. And at this point, I just know. It's like seeing the Matrix in that silly movie. I know that that's not good, or I don't like that, or something says that's wrong. What the heck? And that shouldn't be that way. So there's like a level of, on the sentence level, it gets pretty good, and I might make tweaks on the sentence level, but then I might think, well, it's not organized very well. Maybe I'll move the 4th paragraph to the 2nd paragraph and get rid of the 6th to the 8th and ask it to write something else. And then there's like the document level, where it's like, does this even make sense for my avatar? Should I even be talking about this? And then there's the business level after that. What is this saying about my business? Do I want this to be out there as a piece of content? There's just so many levels of it. In a way, it's kind of the structured editing process. You could find way. I mean, if you email me, aaron@wrixon.com, I've got somebody's prompt somewhere where they simulated that process and asked it to kick their document around in a series of levels. And if you email me, I will dig around for that and try to find it for you so that I can say, okay, cool, here's a good way to think about it. Cliff had done something similar where a couple of weeks ago, he asked chat to say, you're my harshest critic. What do you think of this? Tear this down for me. And it spit out a bunch of answers. This is similar to that process where you're saying, could this be organized better? Could this be clearer? Could this be, blah, 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 right? So if anybody who wants to can drop me an email and I'll try to find those prompts for you.
Aaron, if you don't mind giving him a concise response to what you told me about being careful, right? And I thought that was really great because, yeah.
Yeah, so with that story, you had posted in the group about how you took a landing page that we were working on and said, you're my I can't even remember, you're my worst customer. And tell me all the reasons that you don't want to buy this. And so it spit out a bunch of stuff. And then you had come to me and said, okay, cool, let's address this for this. And I said, hold on a second, is that something you want to do? Because there's a couple of biases implicit in that question that you asked. First of all, you said that's your worst customer. Do you actually want to know what your worst customer thinks of this thing? In fact, you could ask it, you're my best customer. Tell me what's right with this web page. And it would spit out all kinds of stuff that it loved about it. And in fact, when we did that, we saw that if worst customer said A, best customer said the opposite of A. And so the other piece of it, the bias, was you had specifically asked it to tell you what was wrong with it. And so the way that these chats work, it's an implicit failure if it turns around and says, nothing's wrong with it, Cliff, it's great. So by saying, tell me what's wrong with it, it's going to go find things and it's going to start to pick at things to say, this is wrong and this is wrong. And sometimes it'll be oppositional just for the sake of being oppositional because you asked it to find what was wrong with it. When you say, can you help me improve conversions? It will go out there and go, this is how people would answer that question if they were human. I'm just going to make up some stuff about what needs to be improved on this page. When in fact, it's not a human. And it's a human pulling out their wallet and buying. So there's always going to be that disconnect between what a human would actually think of it or what allowances a human would make for your messaging being slightly off and still them wanting to buy it anyway because they've done the work in their brain that it's going to work for them. And chat's very cut and dried version of this is wrong and you're a dummy. So even with all this stuff, Russell, yes, this is the exact process that I've used to create this new avatar that I have. But I'm now taking it out to LinkedIn and saying, like literally getting into people's inboxes and saying, hey, can I borrow 15 minutes of your time to validate something? I've come up with some stuff. I want to make sure that it actually resonates with you. So even though it's easy to be tempted by how good this stuff looks, just bear in mind that it is still not a real person. And a real version of Rachel might not feel these things or might feel something completely different.
Yeah. What do they say? Trust then verify.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sure, it does a great job of getting you super, super close. And I would rather see imperfect action than no action at all. I would rather see you go to market and use this stuff to make a website that is orders of magnitude better than you have now than sit around and go, well, no, actually what I need to do is talk to 20 Rachels just to make sure and not do it for the next 3 months, right?
Now, Aaron, this is a group of freelancers and agency owners on this call, right? And so there's a question from Naomi, and I know you work with agency owners like myself for copy for clients. There's a question from Naomi that says, Aaron, when writing for clients, do you reveal in advance that you use AI and how?
It's a good question. Great question. Again, back in the early days, in the first century of AI, in 2023, I was very unsure about how to do it or why to do it or whether it should be talked about. Now I'm having conversations with, I had one just last week with an agency owner who asked me how I use AI, and I took the leap off the diving board and said, let's be honest, it's there every day, and I do this and I do this, and it helps me do it faster and less expensively for you if we start with AI and then turn it into human. And she actually said, oh, thank God, because I thought you were going to give me some speech about how you should never use it, and blah, blah, blah. People are starting to come around to the idea that this is almost like Photoshop, in that it's a tool that you can use to make your work better. I'm a hack in Photoshop. I could make you a badly photoshopped version of the grassy knoll, and put a robot head on John Kennedy and expect people to believe that it's true. And anyone with any sort of discernment would know that it was not a real image. But that doesn't mean that there's other people that aren't very, very good at Photoshop to the point where they can trick us into believing that, Joe Biden was riding a dinosaur. I don't know. AI is starting to become like that, in that there seems to be a kind of client that wants you to bring AI to the table, either because they know of its power or because they think it's hip and trendy. I always tell people, look, there's basically two choices. You can have all me and only me, and you pay through the nose for it. Or you can have a reasonable price where we're using AI to speed up some things that I don't want to have to do manually, like research or outlining or sometimes even drafting. My promise to you, client, is that no matter what you get, it's going to scan as 100% human in this very difficult AI detector that I have, and it's going to read like your readers want to read, and it's going to accomplish the goals that you wanted to accomplish. I use AI to salt a document with keywords, for example, and get things ranking, and it would take literally hours to try to do it by myself. What would take me 3 hours of editing to make sure that I got all the keywords in will take 5 minutes, and then I can massage from there, right? So it just makes a lot of sense going forward to say I use a blended approach that's human first. Yes, there's AI tools involved in the process, but my commitment to you is human sounding copy that your buyers will resonate with and that will cause them to pull out their credit cards.
Thanks.
Thank you
Hey,
for the
Aaron,
question and the really insightful answer. That was great, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. Aaron, I know we're at the end of the hour. Do you have about 10 more minutes maybe? We have literally everyone on the call still. I have a couple.
Yeah, I'll stay if people want to stay, for sure.
Awesome. All right. So Justin asks, ultimately, do you have any recommendations on leveraging ChatGPT for email? Currently, he's using, a prompt of, can you make this more clear and concise, which I do a lot with Grammarly. Any thoughts there to avoid biases? Before you answer this question, I want to also, one of the questions I had was, let's say you're working, like when you do work for me or for another client, and we want copy to sound like us. What's your process right now? Like with Claude, it's taking my blogs, my voice, my content, putting it up there. But if you could talk a little bit about building a brand voice and then maybe using that to avoid biases, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, well, one of the things that you and I enjoy specifically is a relationship that's years long and that started well before the Grammarlys and the AIs, right? So long ago, you and I, before years before the pandemic was even a gleam in anybody's eye, you and I had pretty much nailed how we wanted My Web Audit to sound, right? And I don't know if you remember, not to keep throwing you under the bus, but there was a time where there was one document that we worked on where I had prepared it and you ran it through Grammarly and fixed all of the things. But all that really did was suck out all of the My Web Audit from the document. We had a way of speaking that Grammarly didn't like, and Grammarly homogenized it to the point where it was sort of gray and not distinct anymore. So these tools can do that. The easiest way to get AI to help you hone in on brand voice is take as many pieces that you like of your own stuff as you can. Could be 5, could be 10, could be whatever. Enough that it can extrapolate from multiple examples and feed it into the machine and say, okay, based on these pieces of my writing that I like, what can you tell me about how I write? And it'll tell you this and this. And you can ask it about tone of voice. You can ask it about sentence structure and length. You can ask it about words and jargon. You can ask it about concepts and the way that you explain them. And if you agree with those answers, and again, feel free to say, actually, I'm not sure that you're right there. Do you think this instead? And it'll praise you effusively. Oh, you're right. I didn't think about that. Like it always agrees with you. To be aware of that. It will never say, no, actually, you're wrong. It will always say, oh, you were very smart to point that out. In fact, and so it'll spit that stuff out. But once it starts to tell you, you could even say, okay, cool. Now, can you write a sample email for me in what you think is my brand voice? And if that feels like you, then you can say, great, cool, thank you so much. Now, please write up a brand voice document that I can use to shape further content. If you're in Claude, you can say output it as an artifact. If you're in chat, you can say, I'd like to do this in Canvas. And it will spit out a document for you that you can then download, or in Claude, for example, you can even just click a button and say, add this to this project until the end of time. And then it has got something that's close to your brand voice and says, okay, this is how Cliff writes, or this is how Russell writes, or how Matt writes. And that will get you farther along the track toward the next thing that you write being closer to what you want. Even you can say, actually, I'm not sure that this is what I want. Can you make sure that it reflects the brand voice that you got in Project Knowledge, or the brand voice that I uploaded to this custom GPT? People think that if you take away anything, I want you to know that you can just tell this thing that you can call it on its BS. You can tell it's not doing a good job and exactly why, and it'll redo it for you. You can talk to it about, you don't have to get super sophisticated about prompt engineering or whatever. You can just talk to it like a real person. You could even train it to call you sweetie if you wanted it to. I have a friend who's in, what do they call it, the women's lifestyle business, one series of multi-level marketing companies after another. But she uses ChatGPT, and she has built it up so that it calls her girl. And like, it's ridiculous. Like, it'll come back and go, hey girl, that's a great idea. Oh my God. It's so insane. But we've got these assistants that are waiting to do our bidding, right? If you understand that it's not waiting to do your bidding, it's waiting to follow its programming, which is to make you feel like you're the king, then you can extend that and say, if I give it examples of my brand voice, I should be able to get this thing to write the way that I want it to.
Yeah, thank you. And Justin here said he was clarifying it wasn't about like newsletters, but content emails to clients. By the way, Justin, I do that, especially for difficult emails. My therapist would tell me things like, I need everyone to like me type of stuff. And so I struggle with difficult emails, but AI has made it tremendously beneficial because I just state my boundaries and say this politely, keep it concise, and it works well for me. And then I edit it because it still has to sound like Cliff. So that's what I do. Aaron, do you use email AI to respond back to difficult questions or emails, or maybe someone's gone on about 10 different things, and really, how do you address that with AI, or do you?
No, I do not. My inbox is solely me. I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you'll notice that I have not once in this conversation mentioned Gemini or Microsoft Copilot because they're both garbage. But my emails are me, and I don't find it difficult because of the reps I've done. I spoke about reps at the beginning of the conversation. Because of the reps I've done, I find it no problem whatsoever to say what I need to say, or to try to. If anything, because of my introverted personality, because of my ADD, because of who I am, I find it hard to empathize. And so I will specifically try to express empathy. But when I turn on the empathy hat, I don't have any problem writing it, right? So I don't use AI there. Where I do use, and there's an analog here, Justin, is it's become easier now for me to take a document let's say somebody says, oh, I don't like this, and it's like a document-wide issue. They've given me some feedback on something. What I do now is I will literally put that document in a chat and say, this is a document that I wrote. Here you go. And it'll go, oh, it's great, blah, 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 the usual junk that it does. But then I will say, my client says this. How would you suggest editing it? And so you can take the worst 3-word comment in the world, the worst feedback that they've ever given you, and just feed it in a chat, and they'll give you suggestions on how you might edit it. And then you think, oh gosh, yeah, no, that's actually exactly it. That is how to get through this. And then you can say things like, do me a favor, change every instance of the word this to the word that. And it goes, cool, here you go. And it's done, and whatever. Or you can say, change this idea to make this idea and rewrite it. And, you can do the same thing with email. Take somebody's 10 paragraphs that they wrote you where they're very upset and say, can you do me a favor? I need you to write an email to this person to let them know I hear them. I'm taking their concerns seriously. We're getting on it right away, and I'll get back to them tomorrow. Above all, please be empathetic, and please let them know that I feel bad that they're in this situation, whatever you want to say. And it'll go, and it'll spit out an email, and you'll say, actually, that sounds too formal to me still. And it'll go, oh, I'm sorry, here you go. And you can work with it that way to do the heavy lifting for you, and then simply paste it in if you want to get that way around it. It can help you out of a lot of jams where, for people like me, finding the words is easy, but for most people it's not. And these AI tools, again, not Gemini, not in Gmail, the AI tools like Claude and Chat can actually really help you with that, especially if you've done the work to front load it with the way that you want to talk.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Hey, everyone. I appreciate your time. Aaron, how can people find out a little bit more about you? By the way, Aaron is in our Facebook group. So if you have questions, Aaron's one of the most generous people I know. He gives and doesn't ask. How can people get a hold of you, Aaron, to learn more?
Email me. So email me or reach out to me in the group. Email Aaron@Wrixon.com. Yeah, you can visit my website. It's kind of a shambles right now because I'm retargeting the whole thing to a certain type of avatar. So I'm busily working in the background, but right now it's a mishmash of junk. I know how to write, let's put it this way. I know how to write a website. I may not necessarily know how to structure a properly formatted local SEO website. So it's been a project this year where I'm redoing everything in the background. But the easiest way is to jump into my inbox, Aaron@Wrixon.com, look for me on LinkedIn, or just hit me up in the Facebook group, and I will literally ask any question. I never thought about it as being generous. I just like helping people. I'll literally ask any question you've got, or answer any question you've got, rather.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Aaron, it will get me the ChatGPT link. He will get me the prompts. I will pass that out with the recordings. So look for that next week. He might drop it in the Facebook group earlier. So feel free to jump in there. I have been telling Aaron, this is unsolicited, to maybe work on a paid masterclass for maybe a couple of hours. Get those of you that are interested in either writing out your homepage copy or building out something that you can use for training to educate your customers as well. So if you seem to think that there is demand for that and you would find interest in paying for something like that for a deeper dive with Aaron and his expertise, or you would like to maybe work with him at some capacity, feel free to reach out. Aaron@AaronWrixon.com. He's in our Facebook group. And maybe if there's enough demand in a couple of months, maybe we'll bring you back in. All right, Aaron, thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Aaron, can you put your email in the chat? I can.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
Go before we shut down the
I
call.
understand the end so quick.
There you go, everyone. Aaron@Wrixon.
I'll wait a minute or two. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool.
Or, Cliff had said another version of that also works, Aaron@AaronWrixon.com. I don't want you to think it was the wrong one. Either one works. Close by saying if I had $1 for every time Cliff told me I should be selling something, I'd already be a millionaire.
Yeah.
If you have ideas for what you'd like to learn, it's not a sales pitch. I'm not trying to set you up to get scammed into a $499 course. I'm just curious what you guys might like to know. So if you've got ideas for what you'd like to know, just reach out to me and let me know.